All right, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to our first Donald Trump versus Joseph Biden, the first debate roundtable. Here with me right now, we got other people coming in too eventually as well, is Mark from Houstonic Live and Recluse from visaview.com. How are you guys doing this evening?
Well,
Doing great, John. Thank you for having us.
I'm doing fantastic, man. I just sparked up before this debate started. I've got some fluffy cats around here, and I am ready to see Trump versus that teleprompter of Joe Biden's, man. I mean, this is going to be something special, John.
Oh, very much so, Recluse. My fluffy cats are in the house, so they're not out in what everybody calls the kill shed. So I don't have any kitties around me. I wish I did. But it's going to be very interesting this evening. I've been looking forward to this. It was your idea, Recluse, to do the round table, and I want to thank you for that. Because I am definitely excited. Because I watched all the debates that were Clinton versus Trump, and I was ready. Like, back then I was all invested in Trump, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great. Get him. You're gonna be in jail. I'll lock you up. Woo. I was like, yes, 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 yes. And now it's just the masks off, and I'm back to they're all likely pieces of crap. They're all probably in on it at this point. Now I'm just gonna sit back and I'm gonna try to play the rational view tonight, and if Trump gets a zinger, give it to him. If Biden gives a zinger, give it to him. But I'm not a fan of either one of them. Pretty much everyone will have some differing opinion. But I will steal something from Mark, if you don't mind, in that I am Make America Great Again with or without Trump. That is true.
Couldn't have said it better. That's it. With or without him. And hey, you know what? Even if he is still 100% MAGA, even if he still is, right? And maybe it may not have looked like that, but even if he still is, what we have to do is exactly the same one way or the other. We can't sit back. We can't let the show just run on its own. We have to get involved one way or the other. So even if he doesn't pull through and isn't quite as MAGA as he said, it doesn't make a darn bit of difference with respect to how we have to tackle this. So with that said, I just cross my fingers. It'd be real nice if he pulls through. And if not, well, it is what it is, man.
Yes, we have to do so. We have to keep researching and putting the information out there, and have no sacred cows, no god emperors. So, Corky, we're gonna watch the feed directly from Fox News. Of course, it's gonna be moderated by
That's going to be wonderful.
Fox News's anchor Chris Wallace. Oh boy, gonna be good.
Oh, no.
All right, so it's the right side of the propaganda sphere tonight then, huh, John?
Yeah, we're not gonna go on CNN and get the left side. So now we got Fox News bringing you the debates, sponsored by the Council for National Policy and La Circle.
Are they gonna bring the tuck out for us?
No, I wish. Why couldn't Tucker? At least that would have been better. Chris Wallace. I mean, look, I'm no fan of Tucker. I've made that known. I think he says a lot of things to people to kind of dog whistle in their ears. Be like, hey, you conservatives, you like listening to me. And the thing is yeah, when I listen to Tucker, I'm like, yeah. But then I realize, oh, wait, you're a Swanson and you're a blue blood and your dad was the head of Air America. Yeah, Richard
Oh, I didn't know
Carlson.
that piece.
Yeah. Not Air America, I'm sorry, Voice of America.
Oh, well, I was like, whoa, that's a bombshell.
But still, Voice of America isn't that much different. I mean, come on now. I mean, you got it's CIA propaganda house that now, according because of the repeal of the Smith-Munn Act during the Obama administration, you now can listen to Air America. I mean, Voice of America here in the United States. Oh boy.
Speaking of which, Voice of America actually started. You could trace that back, some of the early roots, I believe, to Cincinnati, Ohio,
Really?
and a fellow named Powell Crosley Jr. and Crosley Radios. Just reading about this tonight. And Crosley radios, they got their start in 1910, 1920. The Crosley family actually tried to make cars for a little while. And the only reason I went down this rabbit hole is because it just so happened that Arnold Spielberg interned there after he got back from World War II.
My name is Janet Brown. I'm executive director of
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So onto the show. We'll talk about that later.
I always want to hear about Cincinnati, man. That's a fascinating place.
Just the connection to Arnold Spielberg was rather remarkable.
Cincinnati is connected to a lot of weird stuff.
To those who have helped. Our third co-chair, Dot Ridings, is in Louisville, Kentucky tonight. Her leadership in debates goes back to 1976 and includes the presidency of the League of Women Voters. The CPD is the beneficiary of 33 years worth of people who have been willing to put their name on our work. To all of those former presidents and chancellors of debate sites, to former moderators, to members of our Debates International Network who have set their clocks to 3 a.m. tomorrow morning to tune in live, we thank you with all our hearts. In 1987, Paul Kirk and Frank Fahrenkopf co-founded the CPD. I'd like to introduce the co-chair, Frank Fahrenkopf, and his colleague are also our co-chair, Ken Wallach, to start this part of the program.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Health Education Campus, Case Western Reserve, and the Cleveland Clinic. If you have not had the opportunity yet to go around and see this fantastic facility, you really should. It's just a great tribute to everyone who's been
Okay,
involved.
we can talk. You can. I just wanted to get the audio check, make sure it sounded good for the stream. So that's very interesting, Mark, because Dick Carlson, who was Tucker Carlson's father, Richard Carlson, he was also, like I said, he was director of Voice of America, but he was also CEO of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. For 5 years. And later became a president of King World Productions in 1997. Of course, they were the syndicator for many shows that people probably watch, like Oprah, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy.
Wow.
But yeah, I've done 2 shows on Tucker, and I need to actually probably do another show, Tucker. But yes, he did, you know, Carlson did marry his father. Richard Carlson married Patricia Caroline Swanson, who was the heiress to the Swanson frozen food fortune.
Really?
Swanson is the daughter of Gilbert Carl Swanson and the niece of Senator J. William Fulbright.
Oh, really?
Ooh.
Fulbright, huh? Yeah, that's definitely a liberal grandee right there.
Well, you know, if you just happen to be in those circles as a highly accomplished, very visible engineer, that would be a good place to be if you wanted to, you know, call someone at Universal Studios and suggest that they give your son, who's an aspiring movie director, some opportunities. For example.
Be nice to have those kind of family connections, certainly.
Not that Spielberg has been a bad director. Yeah, I mean, he's a hard-working dude and brought a lot of innovation to it. But you know what? It always needs its talent and its connections, always.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I really even watched many Spielberg films, except maybe Ready Player One that have come out since, like, what, about 2003 or something like that. I don't know. His films just seem like they became really workmanlike after a certain point in time. Just wasn't quite the early love of filmmaking, I guess, if you will, that was present in like the 70s, 80s, early 90s stuff. Also, when he started... Oh, go ahead.
Did you enjoy any of his earlier works?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I like most of his 70s works as well. I mean, how far back did his films go again? What, about 72 or something like that? When did Duel come out?
That's around 71, 72, I think. Yeah, that was...
Yeah. I actually
Thrilling
love
movie.
Duel. That was a really good one. Yeah, yeah.
I do want to make noted that Hamilton in the chat mentioned something. I misspoke. The Smith-Mundt Act wasn't repealed. It was modernized back in 2012. Well, actually 2013, because it was for the fiscal year of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act at the time. So it was that modernization that made it so they actually could use propaganda on the American public, and that's why a Voice of America, it used to not be able to broadcast in the United States because of the Smith-Mundt Act, was later changed so that it is able to. That's why you can watch Voice of America and Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty and Radio Free Asia now living in the United States.
Well, God bless America, John.
Yes, we got to get that propaganda. So there was a rumor, and I don't necessarily believe it to be true, but I still think it might be interesting to make note of it, that Biden wanted to take, it's probably just a joke, I would assume, 30-minute breaks during the debate. So does anybody have any things which they think may happen during this debate? I would assume that Trump's going to bring up Hunter Biden. I would assume it's probably going to happen. Biden's probably going to bring up Trump's taxes, but then again,
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like they've definitely had a lot of also what his campaign manager was just committed or something like that after beating up his girlfriend or something to that effect. His former campaign manager. What was that?
Brad Parscale, who was the one who introduced Cambridge Analytica to the Trump campaign.
Ooh,
and
that's interesting.
and did the iVoter app. And Brad Parscale's a Council for National Policy member.
That is very interesting.
So yes, he was the one that down there in his Florida home, and Ali Alexander, who I don't really trust. Ali, a broken clock is right twice daily. Ali Alexander is also Council for National Policy member too. Mentioned that Parscale was spending a lot of the campaign money on ladies of the evening, allegedly, and houses and cars. When now came out today, and something I saw, that the campaign is now being investigated because of Parscale, because of that happening. Let me get the news article actually up, but I did read so much stuff that sometimes you can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll inevitably bring up the COVID stuff, the fires in California that have been caused by climate change or global warming or whatever. Yeah, and as you said, probably the Hunter Biden stuff, maybe a little bit of the, the investigation during the Obama presidency into Trump during the election in 2016. Probably a little dig at Russiagate, maybe. Who knows?
Operation Crossfire Hurricane will probably be mentioned by Trump, I would assume, and the spying. Yes, under investigation for $40 million from Trump's campaign and $10 million from the RNC. That he stole up to that amount. Brad Parscale, allegedly.
So do you think they'll go through to check Biden's ears for electronic devices before the debate begins?
Oh, one can only hope. I wonder if they did a drug test, because I was promised a drug test. So I want drug test results. I want Biden to be like, here's the test results. I'm on no performance-enhancing medications. And I wanted to see that too, of course. We're not going to see that, but it would be hilarious if that happened. Now, I mean, this better be interesting. This needs to be the, like the Apprentice of debates. All right? This needs to be awesome. They need to, talk crap about each other. Like, this needs to happen. Because
I've been saying for months, I want them to come out onto the stage, with like those big freaking, World Wrestling Federation belts and what have you. I mean, have Trump like sling his around and point at Biden and be like, I want you, Biden. I want you. I mean, it's just, there's just so much potential to this, guys. I mean, the possibilities are just limitless.
Oh, there is. I mean, yes. And why not? That would be great. And of course Biden wouldn't be able to do anything because he'd fall asleep, halfway through the promo, right? And have to be jolted back. As I don't know. Trump was in the WWE for a short period of time, and he shaved Vince McMahon's head with that angle with Bobby Lashley and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, heck yeah. The two brews. You know, man, I miss wrestling. Like that. It's not like it is now. I'm not going to talk about wrestling now. I'm not going to bore you guys. But yes, I'm still a wrestling fan today.
No, I mean, it's definitely an apt parallel, wrestling and the elections have really been, you know, equivalent of the WWF in this country for a very long time, but yeah, I think this is really the moment though when, you know, hopefully a lot of the American public will finally catch on to that. It would be really wonderful if they did.
Yeah, but then who are they going to vote for? They're going to vote for Mary Jo Jorgensen and Howie Hawkins. I mean,
why not just not vote at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the correct answer. I'm not.
It's like I always say, you know, I mean, if you're just voting to support the lesser of two evils, you're still supporting evil. I mean,
that is true. That is true. That is true. What says you, Mark? Are we off the mark? Mark, you there? Susie?
Well, I ran a poll earlier on Twitter. Asked my followers, would you rather see a debate between real Donald Trump and Joe Biden, or an actual boxing match between them? And so far, we are 66% would prefer an actual boxing match, over 34% to just a debate. And I don't know. I don't know how you guys would have voted, but I think it would be fun to just put on the gloves or just go bare knuckled.
Yes.
Mark, someone will die. I'm pretty sure Joe Biden will
Would that
die.
really be the worst thing? And on top of that, we could really test, you know, just the real quality of Trump's toupees, man. I mean, will that sucker be able to stay on during the fight? I mean, that in and of itself would be worth the price alone.
Well, I mean, I guess
one person shared a photo of the fight scene, the boxing scene, and from Escape from New York, and I'm assuming you both know that scene.
Yes.
Oh, that's priceless. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Just go this way, and the result would be far more decisive.
You're the Duke, number one.
Oh boy.
Do you guys remember how much like Isaac Hayes' eyes were like twitching in that movie from probably all the cocaine he was doing? I mean, that was just unreal.
Was that it? That was so cool.
It's gotta be, man.
I'm having a hard time taking it seriously. I'm really shaken, but at the same time, I'm having a hard time taking it seriously. I'm glad I'm chatting with you guys. I think we're all in the same headspace right now.
Porky says having an old school duel with pistols.
That
is old school.
Yeah. Maybe have them like come out and try to beat each other with clubs or something like that.
I do like the idea of going old school, going back to solving things with duels. So, yeah.
Well, I want a person who's going to lead us that really wants to win. Prove that you're a fighter.
I don't know. I mean, with the way the country is shaping up over the next 4 years, I think at this point it's about who wants it the least, you know? Oh, my Lord.
We got Palantir is about to go public on the New York Stock Exchange. Oh, boy, that's going to be fun.
Ooh, I mean, you could be a part now of this Severance stain and have your own share in it. That's really enticing.
On them, you know, collecting data on us on COVID. So, yeah, oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Make station wagons great again has fencing. Fencing. Well, yeah, that's really old school. That's taking it back 1700s.
And then, I mean, the winner also might have one of those charming dueling scars. You know, that would be fantastic, too, for the president to have something like that. Or maybe, like, if they lost an eye. I mean, I think that would be kind of cool if we had a president who wore an eye patch. You know what I'm saying? That would
be cool. It's very piratey.
It is. I mean, it's really befitting the current state of the United States as well.
Mr. Robert Parker in the chat. American Gladiators Q-tip battle. That would be cool, too.
That's good. That's good.
Uh-oh. Oh, we're starting.
Oh, what about like a reenactment of the duel between Robin Hood and Little John, you know, with like the sticks on like a log or something like that?
That would be good. You're not getting...
At least we've got this guy blabbering for a couple of minutes, John. I think
Is Chris Wallace not talking? Like, what's happening here? Oh, let me reload it. Maybe that.
I think maybe God's trying to protect us from it, John.
That is a possibility.
Army Rangers are taught to make up.
Commercial.
Much more, he is definitely much more pleasant on mute.
Oh my Lord.
Oh no, we just can't hear him. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, sorry about that. I was like, what's going on here? I can't hear him. Hey Chris, we can't hear you. Come on.
You can just really feel the emotion radiating through the mask, you know.
Uh-oh. That's Biden's wife, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Okay.
I think so. I'm really bad.
Yeah, yes, that is.
So do you think they're going to be wearing face masks? Maybe
Yes, Joe
Biden will,
Biden.
maybe Trump one?
Maybe. It'd be kind of hard to talk in those things. I
I'm curious though if it'll be the first presidential debate wearing a mask. Again, that would actually be really befitting the current state of America. You know, having the presidents wear masks.
And having to yell over masks.
It'd be cool if like Trump had like a skull and crossbones.
There's Tiffany
mask.
Trump.
Oh, this is great. Are all like the Trump supporters not going to be wearing masks and all the Biden supporters wearing masks?
Who's the woman on the right-hand side with the brunette hair? There's Ivanka. Oh no, she's looking at the camera. She knows.
Do you think he knows where he's at?
Eric Trump or Biden?
Both?
Yeah, I'm sure Eric Trump does. I'm not so sure about Biden. Biden might forget where he's at.
No, that's definitely...
Uh-oh. I hear clapping.
Oh, okay. Fabulous.
Yay! Chris Wallace! Woo! Oh, they're clapping for Ivana. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
I thought they were clapping for Chris Wallace. Remember when Trump...
Melania, that's a really sharp suit on Melania, I have to admit.
Yeah, why did I just call Melania Ivana? What the heck was I thinking? I had a brain fart there, too, for a minute.
Well, sometimes I've called her Melinda before because of, Bill and Melinda Gates.
Mm.
Yeah.
I get those names mixed up.
Get tongue-tied.
Yep.
Someone said they wonder if Hunter Biden's isn't having in the seat Doge. That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, question.
Yes.
What color tie do you think Trump's going to have? You think he's going to go with red tie or blue or tie tonight?
I'm kind of thinking the red, man.
Yeah, you got to go with the power red. I mean, you got to.
He may surprise.
That's true. Okay, so are they
falling apart? We're talking about tie color.
It's about as fitting as anything that you could talk about in relation to the presidential race. So what drugs do you think that they're doing right now, respectively? I mean, I'm thinking Trump maybe a little blow right now. Biden.
I mean, Trump has been known to hit the blow. I'm thinking Biden probably a good cocktail of probably some, I would assume, some sort of prescription amphetamine like Ritalin. Maybe you're going to balance that off a little bit with a little bit of benzodiazepine to keep it a little calm, to take the edge off. Maybe a swig of alcohol. I don't know, probably some, probably some neurotropics if the person's really smart enough. That's probably what I would give them. I'd give them some Pepra to help. But I don't know. What do you guys think, Biden?
I think whatever cocktail they gave him was just, it had to have had a lot of drugs in it. That's all I could think, man.
Provigil? yeah, maybe some Provigil. Like Greg Silverado said in the chat. I don't know if you I don't know with his heart. I don't know if you can give him too many uppers though. Modafinil and Adderall, and then a little bit of Valium to cut it with. I don't know. That's kind of like a speedball and a downer. Not a good thing. Not a good way to go. Biden might be so witness for justice is Haladol. Yeah.
Do you think Biden will be sharp tonight? Many people have suggested that maybe he. I don't mean to sound rude saying this, but overplaying dementia. I'm not a professional. I can't measure that. Do you think he'll come out swinging and on point, or?
I mean, at this point, this, expectations are so low that I think almost anything, would be considered a win for him. I mean, even if he's not necessarily swinging per se, I mean, if he's reasonably coherent, he remembers where he's at, that he's, engaged in a presidential debate. I think that at this point would probably be a major victory.
Good evening from the Health Education campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns
just say metal
dancers?
Yes.
For the record, I
Why
decided
didn't he
the
say
topics
that? It would have been great.
and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the 2 candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic.
It would have been cool if he was hooked up to like a lie detector, when he
to the commission for all
that would have been
4
awesome.
debates.
They should all have been hooked up to lie
As a
detectors.
precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate.
But then again, if you're on
the audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers,
that's because of COVID,
no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say.
That's reactions. Crap.
No
What is
noise
this? You
except
didn't cry
right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
And it's also brought to you by Brondo, because it has electrolytes.
The thirst
look at that. He went for like a combo with the red and blue. Yeah. Oh, and he's got the same, oh, that's interesting. They both have the same tie patterns.
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right. Here we go.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first
That's
subject
the first perceptive thing you've said,
Supreme Court.
Chris.
President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
I will tell you very simply,
Biden write down the
question. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places.
The CMP?
So I think she's going to be fantastic.
The Constitutional Policy President?
Even if we
Tony
did it after
Perkins
the
and
election
Marjorie
itself, I have a lot of
Dunsfauser.
time after the election, as you know.
Oh,
so I think that
Rudolph
she will be
Giuliani.
outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school.
And she's a Catholic.
We won the election, and therefore we have the right.
Where's my Protestant judges represent?
Very few people knowingly would say otherwise.
Yes.
And by the way,
because we can only have a Supreme Court that has either Catholics or Jews
the
on
only
it.
difference is they try to do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you.
That's true.
Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. And
Oh my God, Biden's not looking good.
I,
Did you say
American
forget to say
people
Wallace's
have a right
name?
to have a say.
What the hell's going on here?
And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is. Because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he has been governing on that.
You guys see
He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing is on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions.
How you doing, Jeremy?
And they'll be taken away as well.
Good to hear y'all, gentlemen.
Yeah, definitely good to have you here. Greg should be joining us in a moment.
It's just not appropriate.
Recluse is here, and Mark is here, and Billy Ray Valentine should be here too as well.
If he
What's
wins
up, Billy?
the election,
Well, he's not here
the
yet,
Senate
but he will be
is
here.
Democrat or Republican.
But good to have you here, Jeremy.
Then he goes
Thanks for having me,
forward.
John.
If not,
Are you ready? Are you
February.
excited?
There aren't 100 million
so
people
excited.
with pre-existing conditions. As far as
My
the
wife
say
gave
is
me a
concerned,
perfect
the
drinking
people
game
already
for
had their
this.
say.
Which is?
Okay.
It's a
Justice
meme, I guess.
Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly. at
Every
some
time
point,
says
10 years
Biden
ago
says,
or so,
"Come
he
on,
said
man."
the president and the Senate
gotta take a
is
sip.
elected for a period
And every
of time.
time
But a president's
Trump
elected for
says,
4 years.
"Everybody
We're not elected for 3 years.
saying,
I'm not
nobody's
elected for
saying,"
3
You gotta
years.
take a sip. And then
So we
there's
have
some
the Senate, we have a
shots, too.
president.
I'll
who's
share
elected
more
for the
later
next
on
During
that.
that
Jeremy,
period
you're gonna
of
die from
time,
this. I
during
wouldn't
that
suggest
period
doing
of
that.
time, we have an
Alcohol
opening.
poisoning is a real
I'm
thing.
not elected for 3 years.
I told
I'm
her
elected for
this
4
is going to
years.
get everybody
And
too
the
drunk.
100 million
It's already
people, Joe. The
Actually,
100
I
million
like the
people
idea
is
of
totally
turning the
wrong. I don't know
debate
where you
into a
got that
drinking
number.
game. It's
The
rather
bigger problem
appropriate.
that you have
It's
is
too
that you're going to
appropriate, yes.
extinguish 180 million people with their
they're
private
still
health care
talking.
that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to
This-
socialist
this is,
medicine.
we're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead,
Got
Vice
straight
President.
Number
Scarab
one,
bingo.
he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your
is-
party has said.
that is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your
That
party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
If this
I
were
am the
Biden in
Democratic
2000,
Party
I'd say
right
at least
now.
not national
The platform of the
socialist.
Democratic
Oh!
Party is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way,
According to
20,
Harry,
the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you
Did you
strike
say
down
22
the
million
Affordable
people
Care Act?
died?
Joe, you've had
I-
308,000 military people
you say 22
dying
million
because you
people got
couldn't
COVID?
provide
Did I
proper
miss that,
health care
Chad?
in the
Did you just
military.
say
So
that?
don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to
We
talk
need a
about
replay
that.
And
like
if you
hockey.
were here, it would be
Deal.
200. It would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected.
Oh, this is
You
getting
didn't
good.
want me to ban
Very
All right,
good.
wait, gentlemen.
Europe, which
No,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later,
What
Joe.
is
Mr.
Russia
President,
going
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2
Talk
million
about
people.
Russia,
Mr.
Joe. Talk
President,
about
as a
Russia.
moderator,
And then Trump, you can
We are
talk
gonna
about
talk
Russia
about
with
COVID
Joe
in
and
the
Hunter
next
Biden.
segment,
Let's
but
get it.
go
Both
ahead.
both
Let me
Russia. Let's do it.
finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is
now,
it on the ballot?
Republicans
Trump's all about $100 bills on the bed with Roe v. Wade in place.
It's on
Republicans,
the
yes.
court.
That he
There's nothing
supposedly
happening
represents,
there.
yes, but Trump
Donald,
now.
And you don't know her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know her view.
Well, all right. Let's
No
talk.
matter which side you're on, it's not good law
We got a lot to
projections.
unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President,
Oh,
the
boy.
Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18
Roe v.
state
Wade
attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask questions.
They lose.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised
love their
to
abortions and
repeal
their
and
guns.
replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Make America
I got
good.
rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That
big
is not a
chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Why is
You're
he?
debating him
worst
now.
part
Why is he
Let me ask my
arguing
question.
with his
I'll ask
followers?
Joe.
The
Individual mandate was the most unpopular
You're
aspect
debating
of
Joe
Obamacare. I got rid
Biden,
of
Trump,
it.
not his followers.
Protect
Good
people
God.
from
I'm the moderator of this debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and you can answer.
I don't snort as much Adderall as Joe
In the course
Biden
of these
does.
4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic
I can't really blame
executive
Trump, though.
order
Every time
to
I look
protect
at this guy, I
people
want to hit him in the
with
face, man.
pre-existing
Chris
conditions
Wallace is
5
so
days
weaselly.
before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
His
First of
dad
all, I
was
guess
all
I'm
up there with
debating you, not
Robert
him,
Maxwell,
but that's
right?
okay.
On the
That's all right.
yachts.
Let me
Yep.
just tell you something. There's nothing symbolic.
Oh,
I'm
on
cutting
Trump's
drug
yacht
prices.
now,
I'm going
actually,
with
from
favored
Adnan
nations, which
Khashoggi,
no
actually.
president has the
Actually,
courage to do
Trump
because
sold
you're
that
going against Big Pharma.
yacht in Germany.
Drug prices
There
will
was-
be coming down 80
there
or
was like 2 or 3
90%.
yachts.
You
Yeah,
could have
he
done it
sold
during
it
your
in,
47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
health
give
care.
you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth? So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny
As I
fraction.
say,
of
this
what
is
we-
open discussion.
No,
Let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big.
you'll
This
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be
My
happy.
insulin
I'm about
has
to pick up on
electrolytes.
one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare.
Yes.
And the argument that he makes, other Republicans make, is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will
Sorry.
ask you the question. It will
Not what
end.
your
Come
party
on,
said.
man.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled
That was
in the
just a
public
stutter, I
option.
think. I'm not
The
sure.
vast majority of the
Turn your-
American people
turn
would
your ears so
still
we can see.
not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
when
we
you-
call it.
when
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going
didn't
to listen
agree?
to him. The fact
Bernie
of the matter
Sanders
is, I
spent
beat
more
Bernie
time in
Sanders.
Moscow than I
How
did.
much?
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not
here.
by
I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure because
With
here's
your
the deal.
mom,
Here's the deal.
man.
Fact is that everything he's saying so far
This
is
is
simply a
clown
lie.
shoes.
I'm not here to call out his
For the
lies.
record,
Everybody
the,
knows he's a liar.
Part Native
you
I
American.
just
agree.
want to
Joe,
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has, you know, you pick the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea,
Let him,
there is no manifesto, number
please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two,
You just
This
lost
can't be the
left.
best that we
number
have in
two,
America.
Just lost
Beautiful,
the left.
Billy. It really is.
Agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
brand
what
of
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Do you have any do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care. Because
Awesome if they actually had to
because
wear
he, in
clown
fact,
hats to the
already
debate.
has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three.
health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has
don't know
never
how to do
done
either,
a
Joe.
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
No one's fixed
Gentlemen, you realize
anything.
if you're both speaking at the same time,
You know how to do any of
let the
this.
president.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare
So true, Jeremy.
is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee
Everybody's talking about
pre-existing
Biden's
conditions, but took
eyes are
away the
very
individual
black.
mandate.
You know what's better than no good?
Listen, this is
Still
the
not
way
good.
it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well
Biden's people
or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help
people
people.
saying in the chat, I haven't really looked.
I said,
I
you
need
got to
to
run
look.
it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known
just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. Too expensive,
I got you.
premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what his
So
people
we
say.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
it's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it
I
and
understand
give
it,
it
sir,
something
but I
that's
have
cheaper.
to give you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
Good God, yes, his pupils are huge.
Wishful thinking. He
What
has
is he
executive
on?
orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a
Definitely
health care plan
some kind
since
of
he got
dimension
elected. He has
stuff.
not.
It
Like almost
reminds me of
everything
the
else he
scene in
talks about.
Prometheus.
He does not have a plan.
He's like, yeah, they dilated my eyes earlier at the optometrist appointment I had.
I have one final question for you.
Sure.
Mr. Vice
Should all be
President.
comparison over taxes
If
and
Senate
Adderall.
Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here. If Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote.
That's interesting.
You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Rock the vote.
Make sure
It's
you,
the
in
1980s,
fact, let
1990s,
people
rock
know
the vote.
you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the question
You wanna
is
put a lot of
the question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question.
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is your-
up, man?
listen,
Oh!
This is so
Yes!
Gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
unprecedented.
We have ended,
Not gonna give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the
Bare
second
knuckle boxing
segment.
was
Go
doing.
punch him or get off the pot.
Challenge him to a duel, man. Challenge
Right now.
him to a
Yeah,
duel.
true.
The people understand.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second
Whoosh.
subject is
Whoosh.
COVID-19. Awfully serious
Snap.
subject. Let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of
Chris, you are
coronavirus
out
in the
of
United
line
States.
suggesting this debate is serious.
200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before
Till we
we
know
come
the full
back to
effects of it.
anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said
Operation Warp
and
Speed.
done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes
Chris
uninterrupted.
Wallace is a horrible mother.
Good luck.
Yeah.
200,000 dead. As you
What's
said,
the
over
word
7
horrible could be
million in
applied to
the
almost
United
anything with
States.
Chris Wallace.
We, in fact,
Oh, he got it
have
right now. Not
5%,
70 million dead
4%
or
of the world's
infected.
population.
Good job, Joe.
20%
Must
of
have
the
gotten that
deaths.
in the earpiece, bud.
40,000 people a day contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are.
Oh!
That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything.
Yeah,
he knew all the way back in
dying
February how
every
serious
day
this
from opioids.
crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people.
They didn't want
You
to
don't
panic Wall
panic.
Street.
He panicked. In addition to that, what did he
It's
do?
really cool how
He went
Biden's
in
eyes
and
match the
we
black
were
part of
insisting
his
that the
tie.
Chinese, the people we
Oh, I
had on the
didn't
ground in
realize the
China should be able to go to
black
Wuhan
tie.
No,
and
it's
determine
nice
for
to see how it goes
themselves
with the
how
eyes, man. It's
dangerous this
awesome.
was. He
It is
did
a
not
nice
even ask Xi to do.
It's very
He
nice
told us
on
what
it,
a
the
great
tie.
job Xi was doing.
Oh, he's
He
got
said
the
we
white and
owe him a
black
debt
pattern
of
and everything, man.
gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
just 2
March
minutes.
exactly
So
what we
wrong.
should
No,
be
the plan
doing.
is genocide.
And I laid out again in July what
The
we should
plan
be
is the
doing.
end of the
We should be
republic.
providing all the
Dude.
protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools that cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and
Open
get out of the
schools
sand
that
trap
cost-
and get in your
Wow.
golf course and go in the Oval Office and
Get
bring
out of the
together the
sand trap.
Democrats and Republicans
He's been playing
and
golf
fund
too
what
much.
needs to be done now to
Get out of
save
the
lives.
trap house.
So
Stop
Is he-
swinging the
would have listened
Adderall.
to
You have 2 minutes.
Is he
sir.
reading? Is he
If we
reading?
would have listened to
Is he-
you,
I mean,
the
it's
country would have been
ridiculous.
left wide open.
He's so
Millions of
concentrated.
people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened.
Uh-oh.
They stopped it
There
from
you go.
going in, but it was China's fault. And by
Where
the way,
was
when
the
you
China
talk about
virus
numbers, you don't know
originated?
how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand.
You have to drink
But
on
if
China.
you look at what we've done,
can
I
say
closed
Russia,
it,
though.
and you said he's xenophobic,
Russia.
he's a
He said
racist,
Putin's
he's
lying.
Biden's the
xenophobic.
punch from
Because
Russia.
you
It's
didn't think I should
unrelated
have
to
closed
your
our country.
COVID.
No,
Wait a
sir,
minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months.
He didn't
By
close
my
it.
doing it early. In fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump
Fauci?
saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go
Fauci.
take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job.
Hey, Trump
Most of them
stays-
said
people
that.
still
In
trust
fact,
Trump.
people that
According
would
Fauci,
not
huh?
be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators.
No,
You
we
wouldn't
did.
have
We
made
still don't
ventilators.
have
And now
N95
we're
in the
weeks
most
away from a
powerful country in the
vaccine.
world.
We're
Yeah.
doing therapeutics already.
very
Fewer
difficult to
people are
find 'em.
dying when they get sick.
How about
Far fewer
vitamin
people
D?
are dying. We've done a great job. The
about
only
getting
thing I
sun
haven't
or-
done a good job, and that's
Yeah,
because of
hand
the
us
fake
sun.
news.
Or the
no matter
math
what
plus
you say to them,
protocol
they
instead
give you
of
bad
pushing
press on it. It's just fake
hydroxychloroquine.
news.
Why do
They
we
give
hand
you
out
good
salmon?
press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used
I
to it.
like salmon,
But I'll
man.
tell you, Joe, you could
Salmon
never
eggs.
have done the job that we did.
Roe.
You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the
You don't
job.
have good genes.
Know how to
Joe.
get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu.
Oh, didn't do well
You
in
were a
swine flu.
disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a
14,000
disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was-
point.
there
I
was
think it's
no
going to be the
recession.
first one
You
to
made a
break down
point,
and
but I
demand
mean,
that they
And
bring
there
out
was
a
no one-
ruler.
No, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost
Weren't you
far
many
pushing?
people.
Wasn't the Democrats?
Far more
Weren't they
people.
both pushing
And
this?
you would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your
Joe,
own, his,
months
his
behind me,
own, his
Joe.
own CDC director
Very
says
small number.
we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson,
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer.
And
Okay,
by the way,
Okay, sure.
And
Gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on one of the
future.
two of the questions.
flying
I'm gonna
cars?
Ask them
ask.
about alien disclosure.
Focusing on the
Ask
future
them
first,
about
President
alien
Trump,
disclosure.
you have repeatedly either
Anti-grav.
contradicted or been at odds with some of your
When is our
government's
free
own top
energy tech
scientists. The
getting
week
out,
before
gentlemen?
last,
Yes.
the
Alex
head
Jones
of
promised
the
me
Centers
that'd
for
be any day
Disease
now.
Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two
Which
words.
vaccine?
But
Mode RNA, which one?
Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others.
Mode
They can go
RNA.
faster than that by a lot.
Gavi.
Become very
Gavi
political
with,
because the left, or I don't know if I
So
call them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what
that
I
the
call
head of your Operation Warp
Did he
Speed,
ask
Dr.
still?
Slaoui?
I disagree
That's
with
the
him.
big thing. Did
No,
he
I
ask
disagree with
Stella?
both
I
of
don't
them.
know, did
And
he?
he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about
after
when it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our
See, end of
military
the
that
poll.
delivers soldiers, and they
That's
can
what
do
the military's gonna
200,000 a
deliver.
day.
Well, the
They're going
military
to
did
be
say they
delivering
were
same
heavily involved in
It's
Operation
all
Warp
set up.
Speed because they
By
are
Easter,
really good
this
at
would be
getting
gone away.
vaccines to
By the
sub-zero
warm
climates.
weather, it'd be gone.
Like all of
yeah.
America is
It's like
part of a
America.
sub-zero climate, like the
By the
middle
way,
of
maybe you
Alaska.
could inject some
But you know.
bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
you
him.
know that.
I
That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal.
And neither
This
side of the eye
man
will
is
tell us
talking
about
about
the
a
power of
vaccine.
vitamin D or
Every
the sun.
serious,
Nope.
every serious
salmon.
company is talking
Or the
about
salmon
maybe
eggs, or
having
Or
a
the
vaccine
salmon salt. The
done
mistress
by
of
the end of the
salmon
year.
salt,
But the
man.
distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up, though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him.
Oh!
You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying you can't,
Everybody
or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying you
no,
can't trust the
No,
scientists.
well, no, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't
trillions
work
of
for him.
scientists.
Their
There's
job
millions of
doesn't
scientists
depend
at
on
the
him.
Cleveland Clinic.
That's
Okay,
not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci-
scientists that are in
This is
by the
charge.
way,
They will
atoms
have
in
the
the
vaccine
galaxy.
very
Who says
soon.
To the scientists.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you, in light of all the lies he's
malarkey,
told you
man.
about?
He has not looked
the
at Trump
whole
one
issue
time. Is he
relating to
reading from
COVID?
something?
He still hasn't even acknowledged
I think he's
that
afraid
he
that Trump will
knew this was
hypnotize him.
happening, knew how dangerous it was going to
Power
be
positive thinking,
back
remember
in
Vince Appeal?
February, and
Yes.
he didn't even tell you.
He's going to pull out
He's
some
on record
neurolinguistic
as saying
programming
it.
on him,
He
actually.
panicked,
some
or he
NPL.
just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. A lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
You used the word smart.
Oh,
So you said you went
ooh.
to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know
Come on,
what?
let's have
There's
some
nothing
fisticuffs
smart
here.
about you, Joe. 47 years you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being
That's a
built
drink.
again.
That's a
It's
drink.
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast. I
Okay.
look forward to
I-
talking.
when it comes to how the virus has been handled so far,
Monsanto's really
the
happy.
two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to
the mall.
provide
Do you know what
these
the plan is,
businesses
Joe?
the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
See,
Nancy
the-
Pelosi.
Ooh, you
And
just
Schumer,
by the
try
way,
and shut.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate. And he sits in his golf course. And, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
It's a political
subject.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down right now.
Respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
no, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are okay.
of
you have to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it, he shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice President Biden.
Okay, now gaslighting is not the correct term for this. There's a term for what Trump's doing here. There's like a double game going on. Whereas on one hand he says this, but on the other hand, regardless of where you stand individually on masks, you cannot deny that Trump is playing both sides.
Said if we just wore masks between now, if everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Okay, good.
No serious.
Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
nobody will show up.
It has to be the AI, I think.
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why
the AI is developing a sense of humor? That actually might be the most significant thing to come out of this, man.
I mean,
are you not worried about
it as president? And I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about the disease issues?
We have a lot of people. Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay. By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he has? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay.
What's he talking
He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 40,000 people
want to just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraging them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery.
With JFK Jr.
Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
that we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now. Instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed.
It's also what the day of the
people know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks.
Oh yeah, the beer hall push.
But they
very appropriate to reopen on that.
When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others. You got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison.
No, it was like 22.
And you look at what's going on with divorce. Look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country.
Party might be the
our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right.
Really?
2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
What kind of drugs do you guys think Chris Wallace is on?
Millionaires and billionaires like him, in the middle of the COVID crisis.
Adrenochrome, kidding.
Telomere extenders.
Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks
the drugs are starting to wear off, I think.
All the small towns and working class towns in America. How old are you?
Scranto and Clement and
this guy paid a total of $750 in tax.
Sir, it's just yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he is, in fact, worked on this in a way that he can be the first president of the United
States. Time is of the essence for Joe right now. There's only so much left.
Pardon the source, but Rush Limbaugh, who obviously is trying to,
when he became president, first one in American history.
Only on Biden's
Secondly,
the
people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines. Those people who have been saving our lives. Those people who have been out there dying. People who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me. He made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools... No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football.
I told my blacks to go get the pigskin and get back in there.
All right, people of Ohio are very proud of me, and you know how I found out? When he took the phony ad.
Gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment, but first, Mr. President,
Trump's clearly
as you well know,
trying to
there's a
win
new
votes by saying
report
that
that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years.
And all of that was from Deutsche
I know
Bank
that
and the
you
Russians.
pay a lot of
Don't
other
forget that.
taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went.
Biden,
you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it.
After
you know,
Putin
you
had
want to do,
Rebolov
go
give
to
me
the Board
$100
of
million,
Elections.
I gave the
There's a
federal government many
118-page
millions
or
of
so
dollars.
report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under
What's the new
leveraged
Biden
because the
scandal
assets
going
are
to be tomorrow
extremely
to
good.
deflect away from
And we
this
have
exchange?
I built
Sir,
a great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of that.
return.
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question.
Go ahead.
Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see
when?
it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private
He was a
person,
private
unless they're
business
stupid,
people.
they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things
Twitter
that you
account
never
just
even
tweeted
thought
that
about,
out.
including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward. Because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth, because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make the federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes.
But who's going to look out for Roman Abramovich?
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%.
What about
you
China?
have 91 companies, federal, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay
We just said an American company. He didn't say where the factories were actually located.
That is true.
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done, and you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is busted.
Mr. President, Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower
Wall Street is
taxes,
popping
more
like
deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
Let me, but in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherit.
But we're going to have probably a depression like we haven't seen a generation anyway.
In American history, I was asked to bring it back. Yes. We were able to have an economic recovery
still hasn't quite hit
jobs
yet,
you're
guys.
talking about.
Oh,
we handed him a
though.
booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
he
booming.
Blew it. He blew
it wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when, in fact, when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse me, Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris, Trump doesn't like him talking about this.
It would take a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing. Part of my standard fare.
I'm the guy that brought back.
Come on, man. Bring
in
Senator's teenage daughter so I can sniff her hair, man.
Brought him back right here in the state of Ohio.
Bring me Ivanka. I need to sniff her hair.
Gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan
I think Trump's
had the
actually
best
hoping
year
they bring him a mirror with a big freaking rail on
from
it.
Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
and they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit with Mexico.
China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also, while we're at it,
talk about Ivanka.
Just out of curiosity,
exchange children.
The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Brisson to deserve
$183,000? None of that is true.
Oh, really?
Totally
Mr. President,
totally,
President, please.
Totally discredited. Totally discredited.
Soros?
And by the way,
he effectively distracted him from economics.
Mr. Vice President,
Dude, Biden has nothing to say.
Really?
Mr. President, it's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well, you have raised an issue. Let the Vice President answer.
Discredited.
Did Brisson pay him $183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr. President,
my son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
Mr. President,
lie.
Joe, Trump will bring all this stuff up, but Joe Biden won't go where he needs to go with Trump.
I mean, by everybody, by the media, by our allies, by the World Bank, by first.
Joe Biden won't bring up Revolt 11 Abramovich.
No.
Matter
of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
Let me ask you this.
No, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
You got $3.5 million from Moscow.
The Democrats are the wizards.
In his administration said, I did my job and I did it very well. I did it honorably.
I'd like to know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the people who testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't.
Well, here's the.
Go ahead.
With you,
go ahead. Wait a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me.
Hey, let me just say,
No. Mr. President.
$3.5 million.
Dude, he's right. I'm sorry. He's absolutely right. Trump won't shut up.
Here's the deal.
Trump won't shut up. This guy is a freaking clown, straight up and down. There's no other way to say it.
I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's already.
My family lost a fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
And that's such a.
Mr. President.
This is not about my family or his family. It's about your family.
This is the worst debate in the history of American debates.
It doesn't want to talk about what
is glorious, guys.
You, the American people.
This is what the American public
is talking about.
All right, that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Vice President, no.
Like I said, they need to challenge each other to bring the freaking ruler out.
The answer to the question is no.
Sir,
with $1 billion, if you
that is
you know what,
absolutely not
There's a lot
true.
of Phallic symbolism in this
Not
debate.
true.
Gentlemen, I hate to raise my voice, but I see it seems to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal. We have...
Because you're the moderator.
6 segments.
So you should interrupt.
That segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people
Chris
to speak
Wallace
with
have a
fewer
Biden
interruptions.
moment?
I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that. Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than...
No, this guy's a child. This guy's a child.
Please continue on.
There's nothing else. It's
Vice
on full
President Biden,
display.
you say that President Trump
My Lord, what are we doing
the
here?
violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more
This is a weak spot
for Black
for Biden,
Americans than
this
any
idea
president,
that
with the
Biden is
possible
segregation
exception of Abraham
He's
Lincoln.
literally-
My question for the
he's
two of
literally
you
saying
is
he did
why
it too.
should voters
He's
trust
literally
you rather
pointing,
than your
oh,
opponent
he did it.
to deal
Trump
with
is like,
the race
but what
issues
about
facing
him?
this
This is
country over the next
preschool.
4 years?
This is
Vice President
preschool.
Biden, you
This
go
is what we're
first.
voting for.
Trump did
It's
say we
about
got the
equity,
military all set up.
equality. It's about
Go ahead, Mark, I'm sorry.
decency, about the Constitution. We have never walked away from
Name it.
trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole.
These phony
America.
Republicans that are
But
pushing like this,
we've
you know,
never accomplished it.
Democratic
We've
Party and
never
the
walked
plantation
away
and all
from
this,
what
and Black
he has done.
Americans need to leave
It is true. The reason I got in the race is
correct
from those
about
people.
Biden
Close
for
your
the most part.
eyes.
This is a
Remember
big
what those
weakness.
people look like coming out of the fields
You
carrying
know, that
torches.
Biden does have
their
this
veins
history. He comes
bulging,
out acting like he's the
spewing,
torchbearer for,
spewing
like,
anti-Semitic
and
bile
all this.
and
I mean,
accompanied
it
by
is
the
a
Ku Klux
problem.
Klan. A young woman got killed.
Uh-oh.
And they asked the president what he
Heather
thought.
Heyer.
He said there were very fine people on both sides.
reference.
No president has ever said anything
Who got
like
that?
that.
I got that in the corner.
Now, second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd
Say
was
your name,
killed, when
Katie
Mr.
Johnson.
Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the
Eugene
military
Carroll.
who used tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible.
Which was
Upside
named
down.
St.
What
John.
happened after that?
Sort of like
The
Satan.
bishop of that very church said that it was the disgrace. The general who was with him
Saint
said
John,
all
Jeff.
he
Say
ever
Saint
wants to do
John.
is divide people, not unite people
Can't
at all.
remember.
This is a president
is,
who has
dude.
used everything as a dog
It was a
whistle
very
to
symbolically
try to
loaded
generate
moment.
It
racist
was.
hatred,
Yeah.
racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something
That's
quickly,
true.
by the end of the year, 1 in
don't know. I don't think
500
so.
will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans.
5?
This man,
Wait, there's
this
no-
man
no way.
is the,
No
is the savior of
way.
It
African
could be.
Americans.
Let's hear it.
This man cares at all.
Somebody look
This
that up.
man's done
30
virtually
million
nothing. Look, fact
probably
is
30
that you have to
million
look
African
at what he
Americans.
talks about.
That's about
You
right.
have to look at what he did.
41
What he did has been
41.4
disastrous
million.
for the African American community.
Okay, so 1% is.
President Trump, you have 2 minutes.
no, 1 in
Why
1,000,
should
he said, right?
Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
40,000?
racism?
Is that-
Bill, 1994.
That means 41,000
where you call
African
them
That's probably
super
true.
predators,
That might be
African
true.
Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you
caught
have
it.
treated the
Wrong.
African American
You caught it.
Also,
population
what the
community, you have treated the
people-
black
the other side
community
will not
about
reveal
as
is
bad
how
as anybody
Trump
in
is
this country.
playing
You
to
did
this
the
idea of,
19,
like, you know,
and that's
we
why
have the
if you look
plantation.
at the polls,
Meanwhile,
I'm doing better than
Republican
any
Party basically
Republican has
took
done
all
in
the
a
old
long time
Dixiecrat
because they
Democrat
saw
voters
what
to
you
the
did.
Southern
You
strategy,
call
and
them
the old
super predators, and you've called them worse
segregation
than
era
that
Jim Crow
because you look
Democrats have
back at
become
your
Republican
testimony
voting
over the
base.
years. You've called them a lot worse than that as far as the church is concerned and as far as the generals are
But nobody
concerned. We just
points
got
this
the
stuff
support
out.
of 250 military leaders and generals. Total
So-
support.
And what about
law
the church
enforcement?
and the
Almost every
Bible?
law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida.
And
I
the
have
gassing of
Texas.
the
I have
protesters.
Ohio. I have Excuse me, Portland, the sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats.
And how dare
if you
you,
look
Joe?
at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order. But
this guy's a freaking clown, bro.
The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order.
He only knows what he's doing because
the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
He's always been a piece of filth.
So
he gets better at being a piece of filth.
Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education, in work, and in law enforcement. And
the drugs are definitely starting to wear off now.
But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent,
They should just give them
men
both
and women.
Adderall,
Risk their
re-up,
lives every day to take
go
care
at
of
it
us.
again.
But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House.
Apple.
Well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs.
You're going to have our police stop being trained by the Israelis, Joe?
We're going to work this out. So we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops
I'm a
aren't
Zionist.
happy
You don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist.
To George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor.
What are you, man, a junkie?
Most don't like it.
Come on,
but we have
man.
to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never
Except
appropriate.
if the Israelis do it to the
protest
Gazans.
is. Violence is never appropriate.
Just say you support Israel, Joe.
When they run through the middle of town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that is not peaceful.
President Trump, I'm not asking.
But you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment.
Malarkey.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
Oh, man.
There's no bigger bait to my base.
I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was
It's a Maoist
radical
insurrection.
revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training?
If you were
Chris
a
Wallace is
certain
showing his
person,
true colors now.
you had
Oh,
no
yes, he
status
is. He's
in
showing
life.
he's a
It was sort
liberal.
of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing it.
It's true.
He's racist. Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this.
Let him finish.
William Barr.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people, look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together
it's just
is
like
bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism.
What about a woman by the conditioner and shampoo
during
that she
the
uses?
Obama-Biden
Biden
administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
Violent
Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead.
I'm in favor.
You ask the question, let him finish.
Law and order.
The Constitution is about rule of law, not law and order.
Where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime is down 17% in our administration. It's gone up on his watch.
Much more.
All right, we're now, Mr. President, you're going to, Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble with Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been
called Democrats,
Chris. In Republican-led cities
this
like
is an
Tulsa
absolute
and
joke.
Fort Worth.
This is incredibly frustrating to watch.
Is this really a party issue?
Really bad.
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where
right now
53 people were shot and 8 died
of our
shot.
political system.
If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone. And you would see problems like you
would know a suburb unless you took a wrong turn.
Why did he say white suburbs?
Go ahead, wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore.
I thought you were from the
by and
Irish
large
ghettos of
integrated.
Stanton.
There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to run. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me finish the question.
Wallace is
what does
really
reimagining
going
policing
after
mean,
him, man.
and do you support the Black Lives Matter?
We're going after Trump, though.
No, this whole thing is playing to Trump's base. I mean, they have platforms of
I agree with you, but
what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face.
Yes, which is also going to strengthen his base. It's very clever.
Matter of fact,
it's resentment politics.
The only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist
9/11 call
to keep them from having
were
to
there
use
white vans
force
and Israelis?
to be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down.
9/11, I guess.
It didn't go up; it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what he's talking about, Chris. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
that's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
I have all the police chiefs around the world.
Law enforcement Giuliani and Bernard McCarron.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role, and I want to get to another subject,
Credibly
which is the
accused
issue of
9/11 suspects
protests in many
Giuliani and
cities
Bernard Carrick
that have
both
turned
support
violent.
me.
In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 great days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statement.
I don't want to answer that question,
violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted.
Why did you have to ask me that question,
You've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call and bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days
This is going to serve to strengthen
They can, in fact,
Trump's
take care of it
base,
if he just
but it's
stay out of the
also
way.
going to serve to piss off.
Oh, really?
I asked him a question.
To get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street, they shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think
she said that. And so here's the here's the point. The point is that
he's going to cut it off.
That's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire.
Roger Stone
constantly, every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer,
Before
sir.
we get to the Russian
you have
active
repeatedly
measures.
criticized.
I have to answer his
You have repeatedly. You have repeatedly. No, you've been talking back and forth.
Statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
end it. Sir.
I would love to end it.
You know, if you want to switch seats.
We could very quickly.
We could do that, but I'm
the National Guard would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
but they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight
to
condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared to
do
specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it.
Oh, then do it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him?
Hey, Trump, you said you're going to let
white supremacists and right supremacists.
Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's an FBI director.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving on to
the Everybody in your administration tells you the truth. It's not a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no idea.
Antifa is a dangerous
radical. All right, gentlemen, we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent?
Troll has already decided your election, you humans.
I mean, it's 2020. I mean, you know, it would be fitting,
an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job.
It sort of was an impeachment
hoax. But despite going through all of these things,
where I had to fight
both flanks and behind me and above. There has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, the lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling. And they were saying, it's time maybe, and then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. He was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court judges, justices.
Yeah, he's
that
basically
is
just
a
saying, I have the
record,
police, I've got
the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term, 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, more violent.
Which is why it was brilliant that we left all those judicial openings.
We inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused
all those judicial openings?
With regard to being weaker. Fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin, made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed that both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and... Why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule?
Forget about that Putin's name was mentioned right now.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question. Go ahead,
back 30 seconds?
Yeah, yes, you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers.
This is sort of cheap.
My son was in Iraq. Spent a year there.
Another real weakness. This idea.
He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes. And I resent it. I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He
my
made a fortune.
My son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions?
All right, but he wasn't given tens of millions. That is totally discredited.
We've already been
discredited.
Biden won't bring up
we've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
That is not true. That report is totally discredited. Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money. That report was written for political reasons.
You know,
Why doesn't
I'd like to talk about climate change.
What about all the money going into McConnell coffers?
Forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science does. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records.
Right before Trump tried to
what do you
grab her
believe
by,
about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you believe? What do you believe about the science of climate change?
Trump is dog whistling.
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of the planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California is burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city.
We have the best trees, the most beautiful trees.
That are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of management.
But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars and trucks?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored.
No, but you would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two,
this is from 2019.
In fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant.
Energy, Joe.
They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating jobs. Creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. Talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy.
It was falling
Brazil,
apart
the
with
rainforest of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, 5G. And he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, makes sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
Talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. You know, that's not true either, right? This is a 100 trillion. That's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we
not the case.
All right, let me because I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
Well, let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do it. The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs. And these tax incentives to people, for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of, it's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes, by the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them.
I never said that.
That's what he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal. We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape.
Yes,
we
sir,
spend billions of dollars now. Billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest.
More health insurance, John. That's
what's come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact,
he didn't get the memo.
The rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan. That's Green New
Deal.
Deal is not my plan.
rebuild.
If he knew anything about,
he made a statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
that is
What
not
he
true.
did is
You're
he
done in
said
this segment.
he called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said stupid bastards.
Please,
He said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that to
play
the
it.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
And I'm his handler.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal pay for itself as we move forward. You're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
But do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I support the
radical left.
I support the
Trump.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are
Final
receiving
segment?
mail-in ballots or going to vote
They
early.
didn't talk about foreign policy
How
at all.
confident
No.
should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next
had
5
election
plus
integrity.
weeks?
Do you want to
Because
tell them
it'll
about
not
William
only be to
Stevenson
election
and
day,
how
but
he
also
freaking sexually
counting some
trapped several
ballots,
US
mail-in
senators
ballots
back in the
after election day.
1940s?
What are you prepared to
talk
do
about the
to
British
reassure
and
the
US
American
foreign policy,
people that the
Chris? Are
next
you gonna talk
president
about the
will be
Israelis,
the
Chris?
legitimate
Their
winner
influence in the
of this
election?
election in this
I will
final
not
segment?
talk
Mr. Vice
about
President, you
John
go
Kenneth
first.
Blackwell
Prepared to let
and
people
the Counts
vote.
for
You
National
should go to
Policy
iwillvote.com.
rigging the 2016 election.
Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which
It was
they're going to vote.
huge. That spread par
His
scale
own
was
Homeland
huge.
Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no
I didn't
evidence at
do
all that
anything.
mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. Fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way.
Who's
He
going to
sits
count
behind
it?
the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida.
Or
Number
what's
one.
gonna
Number
count
two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance.
On a
Polls are
Dominion
open
or
on
ES&S
time, and the
rigged
polls
machine.
stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because
they're
he's
just
trying
to save our
to
the election,
scare
the
people into
integrity
thinking
of our
that it's
election
not going to be
system. That's what
legitimate.
Tucker Carlson
Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote,
That's a
vote.
lie.
If you're able to
That's a
vote
lie.
early in your state, vote early.
Lady.
If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you.
Vote even if you're
And if
dead.
you're able to
You
vote
will.
out,
He
vote
cannot
often.
stop you from being able to determine
Vote-
the
vote
outcome
more
of this
than once.
election. And in
Vote more
terms of
than
whether or not,
once.
when the votes are counted and they're all counted,
Yeah, Trump will
that will be
say
accepted.
all
If
of
I
this
win,
is
that will be
unacceptable, then
accepted.
he'll
If I
encourage
lose,
his
that'll be
supporters to
accepted.
cheat
But
and
by
vote
the
twice.
way, if in fact he says he's not
Ti-
sure what he's
Titus
going to
posted in the
accept,
chat, Trump
well, let me
should
tell you
just
something. It
answer
doesn't
every
matter
question now
because
about
if we get the
voter
votes,
integrity with Kenneth
it's going to be
Blackwell.
all over. He's going to
Yeah.
go. He can't stay in power. Won't happen.
Do votes
Won't
before
happen.
I send in
So
two
vote.
votes.
Just make sure you understand.
Biden
You
should have said,
have
"We're gonna
it in
drag
your
him out."
control to determine what this
He wouldn't
country's
say
going to look like the next
He's also
4
gonna
years.
mention
Is it
Kenneth
going to
Blackwell.
change
I
against
sure
4
as crap
more
would.
years of these lies?
Yeah.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they
It
came
happened.
after me trying to do a coup.
Ding, ding, ding.
They came
Totally
after me
greasing the
spying on my
skin to
campaign.
justify trying to
They
stay
started
in
from the day I won
no matter
and even
what.
before I won. From the day I came down the escalator with our first lady, they
The
were a
escalator.
disaster. They were a
Drink.
disgrace to our
NLP.
country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the
He's
idea
got
for
it
the
all on
Logan Act
tape.
against General Flynn.
Oh,
You better
boy.
take a look at that because
General
we
Flynn,
caught
dog
you in a
whistle.
sense.
Take a
And
drink.
President
Like the
Obama was sitting in the
prostitutes that I
office.
would
He knew
never
about
have
it
to
too.
pay
So don't
that
tell me
didn't
about
pee
a
on the
free
bed.
transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a
Just so
waste paper
happened.
basket.
It
They're
just
being
so
sent all
happened.
over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that, all run by Democrats.
This is going to be a
all run by
disaster.
Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so.
Kavanaugh.
Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated.
Don't forget
they
about
take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? If there are millions of ballots going out right now,
what you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote. Like they used to in the old
millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending... They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
Okay.
This is not going to end well.
The rivers are on fire. Mail-in ballots for the last decade or more, 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by Election Day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the vote.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on this. Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court, with a Justice Barrett, will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court will settle this, because here's the deal.
The ballots will be there.
When you file, when you get a ballot, fill it out. You're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for,
my old friend.
say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, when you have 80 million ballots sending and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already there's been fraud.
Mail service delivers 185 million pieces of mail a day.
In 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the Vice President, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified?
Everyone from
Trump,
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what, from a common sense, I'll tell you what it means. It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President Biden, that's good? Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes.
2040, but you're definitely correct.
The new American century.
In the new American century. I don't put it beyond the Democrats to cheat, but it has not happened.
Election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, the military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? The same process. It's honest. Really? No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
You had an opportunity to respond. Go ahead.
They have no idea
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
man,
I want to see.
If he steals it, I'll stand down like
we say that's the end of it. This is the end of this debate.
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you.
Pence versus Powell.
And good night.
Harris, that's right.
All right. Thank you.
Are they going to fight?
Is Trump still speaking? Is Trump still speaking in the mic? Trying to finish.
They each have their own type of dementia. It's really interesting.
It is. Oh, man.
Oh, she took off her mask. What is that? Is a weird outfit.
That's pretty sharp.
That's like her mafia outfit.
Oh yeah. That's right.
They're matching.
Woman in black.
Bad on her.
Matching dawns.
Yeah.
Still has her mask on. Sort of.
And it matches her.
This was a complete and total disaster, guys. A complete and total disaster. I'm sorry.
This was so accurate of the American Republic.
Right. It's exactly the state that we find ourselves in right now. And to be honest with you, I'm going to go out and say this, and I don't care what anybody says. Listen, both of these guys are pieces of crap. We know this already. But anybody that supports Trump after this has some serious problems. They have serious issues with themselves and their minds and morality in general. Clearly, Donald Trump is of a maturity level of a 10-year-old. Clearly, he cannot shut up. It's insane. And all of the things that have come out throughout the course of this, and of course it was orchestrated, but all of these things that have come out about this guy and people still support him, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say.
And his childishness is the least bad part of him. Because actually, I do think a vote for Trump at this point, and that doesn't mean about any support for Biden, but a vote for Trump at this point is a vote for the end of the republic.
I don't disagree with you. It's a Trump. It's a vote for the degradation of America. Done. The American experiment, bro, is teetering. It may be over. I may be giving it too much credit.
Yeah.
And I think it's go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all on this because I agree with your assessment. We also have to take in mind, I'm sure you see this as much as anybody being involved in the alternative media and all this, but unfortunately, there are millions upon millions of people who support Trump who are victims of a very, very massively powerful propaganda machine that is able to twist anything he says, does, or anyone around him says he does, as being the exact opposite of what it really is. I mean, go ahead.
I mean, as outlandish as what Trump is, the way he's perceiving, I mean, he's playing exactly to his base. And I mean, also the childishness was clearly getting to Biden. I mean, you could see that, I mean, that was visibly evident at several points in this, which was a part of it. I mean, it was essentially a tactic to throw Biden further off. I mean, not that he needed it a lot, but it definitely worked. And I mean, that's the thing, Trump realized that you needed a fanatical base to achieve power in this country with the division that's been setting in really for years now already. I just think that, while it might seem outlandish, it is a clear election path to victory for him. And I mean, he did exactly what he needed to do there.
You think so? You think
let me tell you this. Let me jump in here real quick, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt, man.
No, please.
But let me tell you how I see this, and I could be very wrong, right? The Trump base is the Trump base, right? And they are going to support him no matter what. They're going to go out to these rallies and act crazy. They're going to have boat freaking parties, and he can take a poop on the White House lawn, and they will support it. Right, that's what it is. Let's remember how many people voted in the Trump versus Clinton fiasco. Let's remember it wasn't a lot of people. It wasn't a large turnout, and he lost the popular vote. Right. So this is assuming that elections are on the up and up. Right, for the most part, he lost the popular vote back then. The base isn't as big as we're giving it credit. The base is rabid, and the base is super supportive of Donald Trump. The rest of the nation, I think, hates this guy. And I think if it's on the up and up and Trump ends up winning, that's the only time. Well, not the only time. I think there's fraud on both ends. But Trump has been a part of a massive psyop on the American people, and he has been fanning the flames of cheating, fanning the flames of a rigged election far longer than Joe Biden or anybody else. So when it comes back to these mail-in ballots and all of this stuff, I'll go to the source. The source is Donald Trump. This guy's a child. He's not competent at all. He's too rough around the edges. And quite frankly, I'm ashamed that the guy's from New York City, because he reminds me a lot of what New Yorkers do. And this guy's a piece of filth, man. That's just, I'm sorry. Joe Biden is a piece of crap too. All right, so I want to hand out the pieces of crap to everybody that's to everybody that deserves them. But
equal opportunity,
right, exactly, 100%. But I think we really need to look at this in a way that the base wasn't going to go anywhere, and now they're even more heated. But I think Trump pissed a lot of people off with this performance because he acted like a child, and they're not going to vote for Biden. They're going to vote against Trump. That's what's going to happen here, or pro Kamala Harris. There's no one voting for Biden, but people are going to get pissed off. He cut Biden off how many times? Like, can't you control yourself? You're the president of the United States. So I think he didn't do himself any favors here. Yes, he did throw red meat to his base, and his base wasn't going to abandon him anyway. But the in-between voters, the undecideds, I don't know, man. I don't know if he did himself any favors.
It's
yes, but I mean, you got to remember,
yeah.
though, when it's all said and done, I mean, support for the protests or riots, depending upon your point of view, is starting to diminish rapidly. And I think that's really going to be a major factor in the swing states. I mean, yeah, I know voter registration is going up and what have you, but I mean, if, several million people vote more so in New York or California, is that really going to matter in the grand scheme of things? I just think ultimately the rioting, even though, I mean, it's not something that's being spoken about a lot in public, is starting to really upset the middle class. I mean, the suburbs and so forth. I mean, even though a lot of these people might despise Trump, they're staring at the prospect in some of these cities, their property values plummeting. I mean, their standards of living going down and so forth. I mean, that's going to be tough. So, you got to look at the swing states and how that is ultimately going to affect them.
Man, it's interesting. Conservative Twitter lives in a different reality than we do because it's all Trump beat Chris Wallace in the debate and was planning to.
I agree with you.
I knew it would be.
I agree with you 100%. Right? Conservative Twitter is its own thing, and sometimes we here in the alternative community, no disrespect to any of you guys, I don't even know who's here. I know Recluse is here. What's up, Recluse?
Hey, what's up, man?
What's good, John? And I don't know who else is here, but
here. McCarron.
What's up, guys? It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on with all of you. I had to hop on a bit late. My apologies, man. But
what?
Man, I don't even know if I want to talk.
I wanted to follow up though on something you were saying before, Billy, about the. It has been from 2016. It is, Trump is the only one who publicly refused to say, publicly said he was not guaranteed to accept results. He said it in 2016. And everybody wants to talk about how, well, there was never a transition period. Hillary Clinton stood down the moment Trump was announced the winner.
She did.
Called him and congratulated him. Never said a word about it again. They say, well, the media has been working against Trump. Well, not exactly if you understand like the depth of like these scandals and what the MSM is actually covering up. But Trump is allowed to go out and say, tease it. Oh, I'll stay in office for 12 years. Can't make ads with him. Oh, he's still president in 2052, 2056, 2060, 2064. Oh, I might stay. I might not leave. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I can't commit to leaving office because there's so much cheating going on. I can't, so basically they've completely greased the skids to not accept anything. Look, I know the same thing goes on with the other side, but I'm talking about particularly the right-wing media. The combination of mail-in balloting is going to lead to massive voter fraud, and there's going to be stolen elections with millions of dead people are going to vote, basically, combined with this mass censorship idea, which is partially true, but not completely true.
Thinks of us
kids all over the conservative media, everywhere from Fox News to Rush Limbaugh, QAnon, is greasing the kids for not accept anything. And with the power in the hands of Trump and Bill Barr and people like that at this point, that is a terrifying proposition. When you have everybody from Roger Stone to Donald Trump himself to Mark Levin coming out saying, invoke the Insurrection Act, Mr. President, crack down on these traitors. It's a very, very scary it's terrifying to have the power.
Well, I mean, he's basically laying the framework when he keeps emphasizing that the election might not be decided for months, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, they already have all the infrastructure set up to, initiate COG.
Agreed.
That's the bottom line.
I agree 100%.
Possession
I mean, most likely he keeps emphasizing. I mean, he's telegraphing it right there in the speech. He's emphasizing that he has all of the judges packed. He has the support of the police.
Exactly.
He has the support of the military. He's basically laying that out for freaking Biden. And what is Biden saying?
Let's not forget Blackwater, as Aaron Prince said on the Brian Keegan radio show. Blackwater is back and it's operating here in America.
And he's got like the freaking Oath Keepers. He's got all these other, not these, clown militias, but I mean the serious ones.
The real ones, yeah.
John, did you saw the clip I sent you of Rick Joyner talking about the patriotic veterans are going to rise up as the patriotic militia, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
Sounds very Blackwater like.
And then Rick.
Well, you got to remember, Rick Joyner is in the one of the more recent incarnations of the Sovereign Order of St. John, which was effectively the American propaganda Dewey for years. And I mean, who else is in there with him? Well, he's got General Boykin in there, Jerry Boykin. I mean, this is the former freaking head of the Joint Special Operations Command. That is the principal counterinsurgencies force that the United States military controls, the elite of the elite. And you've got the former head of it in this freaking, organization that's managed militias for this country for years.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, this is the kind of infrastructure that's been set up for freaking decades now. They're getting the courts on their side. They've already got the police. They've already got the military, and they've got their little stay behind set up. I mean, that's why Biden keeps there basically saying at the end of it, oh, we're just going to accept, whatever the voters happen. And, he's going to leave.
These are the stay behinds that Alex Jones brags about being introduced to by his father and by the John Birch Society.
Yeah. Because, they're probably the ones that his relatives have set up. I mean, what did he say? So his relations were in the Green Berets or something like that?
Jeremy and I caught some of a live stream with Jerome Corsi and a guy by the name of Kenneth Timmerman, who works with Stratford, complaining.
Wikistrat.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Wikistrat, and complaining and wringing their hands about a possible coup against Trump. Meanwhile, these people like Jerome Corsi, Steve Pieczenik,
Rick Joyner, Jerry Boykin, they bragged of like potentially staging a coup against the previous president. I mean, it's so insulting. But Jeremy, you were going to say what you were going to tell what I sent you about Rick Wiles, basically celebrating gleefully the prospects of like, people who document his show being
it was activating special forces to go and basically kill Antifa in their beds, kill Right Wing Watch. He mentioned in
Just say what you want about Right Wing Watch. Right Wing Watch has been all over Rick Wiles and True News for years now. Very.
And at the very least, Right Wing Watch is not calling for special JSOC to go drone strike Rick Wiles. So it is the case that this is a situation. It does. All of the parameters are there for this kind of Phoenix program, domestic. There was a takeover in 2016, and the fact that almost no one actually looked at the election fraud scenario, and including the people who it was stolen from allegedly, in these swing states, and the exit polls don't match up, and the Democrats always stand down for some reason. So really the main thing that the Trump regime forces at this point are going to work for is to try to suppress the vote as much as possible to get it into a perceivable range where it can be stolen. And that's really the main thing. And that's actually what's so interesting about the recent follow-up on the Cambridge Analytica story, of course, out of England. Our own journalists are just sort of, New York Times, Maggie Haberman, sort of Trump PR type people, but that the main focus, and we knew this out of Cambridge Analytica from the Trump people, and it's interesting Parscale and his recent breakdown and all of that, because he ran this stuff in many ways, and that the main thing they were focused on in terms of the Cambridge Analytica psychographical warfare was focusing on three main groups and suppressing their vote. They didn't care about flipping them. They wanted to suppress their vote. And it was African Americans, disenchanted Bernie Sanders voters, who were understandably disenchanted after it was the primary was stolen from them, and then the always mentioned suburban women by Trump.
It's interesting that they also tried to get Bernie Sanders supporters to also vote for Trump too. They did both. They tried to alienate some of them that would not. That were considered voting for Clinton, but at the same time, it's the ones who are mad at Clinton to vote for Trump. I saw that a lot.
Let me get in here real quick, and then I'll fall back, right? Because you guys brought up Cambridge, and the main reason Cambridge was used, of course, to get Trump into office. But how did they do it? Right? It's tribalism, right? That's how they did it. They divided and conquered. Yeah. That was the whole the whole thing behind Cambridge Analytica was to divide. They did it in North Africa as an experiment. They even came to Virginia to run drills of sorts of how they could figure this out. And it was Alexander Nix, Steve Bannon, and the Mercers. And the Mercers literally wanted to mold society the way they saw fit, right? And Bannon, he went through he learned from this dude called, Moldebug. I don't know if anybody knows who he is. I'm just learning about him now. He's a far right-wing guy. And it was ordered.
What do you mean, the blogger?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The neo-reactionary right, yeah.
Yeah, and it was order out of chaos. They needed to create the chaos first. This is what they've done. They've done it in America. I think it's the most successful experiment of the quote-unquote Cambridge type company. Of course, Cambridge doesn't exist anymore, at least not by that name. But they've completely divided the country by red and blue. They've divided the country by race. They've divided the country by gender, and they've divided the alternative media to come amongst themselves, to fight amongst themselves. And now what they're doing is, how are we ever going to come together? That's the only thing we have. We have to come together, but we can't come together if we are diametrically opposed to each other. And that's what they've done better than anything. But it's a complete mind game.
But it's not just Cambridge Analytica, though, Billy. I mean, you're having it on the left, too, with Stanley McChrystal and New Normal, and the leftist media also pushing their side to the brink as well. It's not just Cambridge.
I get that. It's not just Cambridge, but Cambridge is the most notable company of the sort that we can point to right now. It's mainstream, right? All these other things, people aren't very aware of it. There are Netflix documentaries done about Cambridge Analytica. There are mainstream books, bestseller books. So you can kind of have a conversation with that and bring people in. So that's why I concentrate on Cambridge Analytica. And it's been the left, but who's been the most successful? It's the right. Look what they did with Bolsonaro in Brazil. They did Brexit over in the UK, and over here they got Trump in. They've been the most successful with the right.
I mean, I think, ultimately, I mean, the right has just been way more sophisticated at this at the left, and they've certainly been at it, I mean, much longer. And they have, I mean, I would argue, ultimately, much greater access to intelligence officers, that type of thing, as veterans and this stuff. But I mean, more to the point, though, I mean, I just think ultimately the left, in doing this, is only playing into what the right is trying to do. I mean, they want to try to create as much chaos as they possibly can. And the left, by embracing the tactics of Cambridge Analytica, is only going to increase that, which is ultimately going to be a disaster for everyone. I mean, really, this is what a lot of, I think, the philosophical ideology behind some of this, I mean, is ultimately chaos. I mean, you know, when you bring up the one blogger here, I mean, that gets into some weird stuff with the neo-reactionary movement. I mean, you get into things like Nick Land as well, the whole concepts of accelerationism, and even the whole notion of a mimetic insurgency and so forth. I mean, that's been put forth by some of the successors in these chaos magician circles and so forth. I mean, it's just some really strange, surreal stuff. And I mean, ultimately, it is to drive this kind of division and this just kind of ultimate breakdown of society, because this is what they want in the long run. I mean, this, you know, ultimately cuts to the core of the strategy of tension, you know, so to speak. You create enough chaos from both the right and the left, and ultimately it paves the way for a military coup, which is almost always going to favor the right in the long run. So, you know, it's ultimately playing into their hands.
And I think there's also that this is basically a maximalization moment that has been based upon this much longer term, because the bipartisan aspect of our political system and how ancient that construction is really like the key divide and conquer dialectic, really, is the left and the right, or the Democrat and the Republican. And it also lends itself directly towards the originating organization of the people in teams, as if it's, you know, of course, bread and circus, and as if it were sports rather than actual organic political life, where every man and woman really stands on their own, and then in voluntary association with those who they want to work on political ideas with. And so that, I think, is sort of the only potential political solution that we have to this, is an actual real American politics. And there are organic, if you look deep enough back, I think you see this, like the 1800s in the US, especially the late 1800s, really represent both possibilities politically and economically. Economically, it's pre all the income tax, the Federal Reserve stuff, and even in terms of the individual's position economically, more than 90% of the country are basically self-starters, small business owners, artisans. And at that point, when you that is actually the deep economic format for the proper constitutional republic, is where the people take care of themselves and their neighbors. And then from there, they are free enough to then freely associate politically. And I think there's all kinds of real solutions here. And you see the only thing that they actually have in this circus politics is the questions being perfectly crafted to be wrongly answered. And that's what you see over and over and over. And this debate was like the perfect example of exactly what the problem is, or what the architecture is between the Trump and the Republicans and the Bidens and the Democrats, where Trump attacks on his own weak spots, the places where he's most vulnerable, he attacks. And then the Bidens act defensively and try to pretend like he's going to sort of appeal to some kind of alleged facts there, and he refuses to attack on the weak spot. So in the middle of all of that, I think that just even us talking right now, I believe this represents, the possibility of politics where we lead with our own free thoughts and our own ideas rather than based on this sort of mimetic warfare, divide and conquer stuff. So I still think there's hope, but only if it's put into practice.
So is there any way that the de-escalation happens? Because both sides are heavily riled up and angered right now, whether it is, the conservatives or the Democrats, depending on who gets in, who is appointed to the presidency, whether it's Trump or Biden. And you see that a lot. These things are escalated to a very strong point that I don't think we've ever seen in American history. So I really don't know where it's going to end up going, depending on who wins. It's really sad that we're this divided. And, I mean, the best candidate...
that was part of a long-term plan, ultimately, though.
Yeah, and the best candidate that the Democrats could put up, really, is Joe Biden, really. He's the best.
Well, yeah, I think that's really the tip of the hand. I mean, it's like you're not even really putting like a real candidate up against him, for pity's sake,
It is a very dangerous moment, and it's very difficult to try to actually fully war game the coming months out, I think, and so I almost think it's almost not quite worth doing. Although it is important to run scenarios in your mind, at least in terms of trying to analyze what might happen, but then also what do you do? What do we do? What is our moral responsibility in the moment? And obviously, it seems like that if just us, for example, as individuals, some of our role might be to try to hold a ground of calm of some sort and hold a ground of conversation, actually. But I can't see this going anywhere but chaos. And so in the midst of that, I keep on coming back to this other form of rhetoric, of the rhetorical arts, beyond the ethos, the pathos, and the logos of the kairos, of the kairotic, which is like the improvisational, which is where you have to be open to the moment and face the danger of the moment, even if it's just a rhetorical moment in front of the people that you're speaking to, and then try to break on through, find the openings there. But no matter what happens, whoever's selected or elected or whatever, that we face major challenges long term here, politically, economically, all of that type of stuff. So I would just hope that we could begin to figure out what kind of politics we want to actually actively construct, so that we're not only sort of stuck with this circus.
Agreed, man. I think that was a very good analysis. We got to try to stay calm, right? Because that's what they do. They work at our emotions. We need to stay calm and try to figure it out. I don't know how much good that's going to do, but I will say that it has to get a lot worse before it gets better. Which one of these candidates is going to make it the worst for us? I don't know. But it has to get worse before it gets better. People need to realize that the left-right paradigm is nonsense again. We've been reincorporated into it.
Well, I mean, there's really no left at this point. I mean, what passes for the Democrats now are basically Rockefeller Republicans that have been rebranded. I mean, come on. I mean, you hear about every kind of justice being talked about now except economic justice,
On that note, Jeremy, you and I, we've talked a lot about staying sane in this crazy domestic, this crazy situation. Really, I would say particularly, obviously since March with the unprecedented, basically global shutdown, the entire world shuts down at once in an unprecedented manner. And then I would say a combination of that, but ever since like the George Floyd thing became a national headline, everything, it's been a particularly ugly divisiveness we've seen over the past several months in particular. And it is very, very hard to find that balance between looking at the world realistically, looking at worst case scenarios that are very real that you really have to address and acknowledge are out there, but also not keeping your cool, staying under control, not because I think, there's a sense of like where you want people to feel like they're hopeless, to kind of lose hope, and in the process that maybe lose control and lose, just maybe become irrational and unreasonable in these times. So it's very important to balance out and I'm trying to cope with this as much as I can myself personally, balance out the being realistic that, we're in a bad place. It could get much, much worse, as you said, much worse before it gets better, but also trying to stay realistic and optimistic and realizing that there is also at some level or another, there is, water at the end of the bridge, that we do have, that there are positive things going on in the society that we can take advantage of. As a matter of fact, one thing I believe is that more and more people every day are realizing just how screwed up this system is. You don't see that because, everybody, the prevalent feeling is to get people in their divisive, partisan camps, but people more and more are seeing that this thing is, and they're looking for solutions and answers that they're not finding from Donald Trump or from Joe Biden or from whatever, partisan media operation they listen to. So, I mean, it's a balancing act here, but there is water at the end of the bridge. I think sometimes we have to remember that in the process of being tempted to be down and feel like there's no hope and reacting the way that you would act in that situation. That's my take.
Anybody else got anything to close? Probably go about another 10 minutes or so, and then everybody's got work tomorrow.
All right, since no one's saying anything, I guess I will. I just want to say that presidents are temporary and Wu-Tang is forever.
Very true.
I mean, I thought tonight's debate, all it did was play to the bases for the most part from what I've seen. If you're going to vote for Trump, you're going to vote for Trump. If you're going to vote for Biden, you're going to vote for Biden. But most people have already made their decisions from what I've seen according to the polls anyway. Of course, that's me taking the route that elections are not rigged, and whoever's going to win is going to win. But, yeah, I mean, I can't wait for the vice president debate. I can't wait. You guys say there's going to be another debate after this one? There's going to be another Trump versus Biden debate again?
Maybe.
I certainly hope so. But, yeah, I could see Biden refusing them after this, though. Who knows? I mean, in a lot of ways, it's, I think, only emboldening Trump's base. So,
yeah, I do think that this didn't move the needle really much for anybody. They both could have sort of really lost steps here, and I think they both didn't. They both basically just sort of were as we expected them at some level, and they played to their bases a little bit. I think Trump played to his base a little more strongly than Biden did, probably. But I don't think it moves the needle. And it is very possible that this is a paper tiger in terms of the Trump support thing. We do know that, like, contrary to the whole idea of the whole fake news and the entire media is against him and all that, we actually know they've run total cover for him. And so you begin to have to see this whole thing as a massive psychological operation that's totally based on normalizing all of this, and then also trying to paint it like is much deeper support for it than it really is. But again, like, it's, who knows what the long-term difficulties we will face. It's hard to say under either selection here. So, but the main thing, I think, is that we want the opportunity to potentially resurrect a republic. I think that's the main thing that we want politically, potentially.
Well, I mean, it's certainly going to be tough, I think, in this upcoming decade. I mean, as bad as 2020 has been, I mean, I think this in a lot of ways a lot of people might look back on it and wish that it had been the new normal. You guys Star Trek fans, did you ever see DS9?
Yeah, I watched it with my dad a very long time ago.
I think it might prove to be rather prophetic about the 2020s.
There's now I don't think it's Gene Roddenberry as a member of the World Future Society. All stuck in my head now. Oh man, I tell you what, it's a real. Did you guys see the Drudge? Of course, I think Drudge has been sold, and the person who owns is under NDA. They have debate and has circus now. Debate's crossed out with a picture of a clown. Will you shut up, man? In quotation marks, and the oldest candidates in history. So.
Yes. What is it, like a combined almost 150 years between Trump and Biden? It certainly does not do a lot to lend credence to the notion that with age comes wisdom. I certainly did not see a lot of wisdom in all those years on stage today, gentlemen.
And Chris Wallace adds to those years.
Yeah, and I mean, when you throw that in, I mean, it's even more disgusting. Good Lord.
There you go, CNN, pure chaos at the first debate, and of course Fox News is acting like,
What I think this debate really proves more than anything is that we need much more extensive measures to test for dementia much earlier in individuals.
Yeah, and the best thing to test for that in terms of politics are these kind of scenarios, improvisational, live clashes of ideas that are long. You got to think back to like the 1800s where they would like debate for 5 hours at a time at some, train stop.
How long did those famous Lincoln Douglas debates last?
Exactly. I think they went on like hours and hours and hours. And so this is part of me thinks I have an instinct that the violence on the streets and amongst the people of our country and families, neighbors, all of that is inversely proportional to how much serious public clash of ideas there are in the public sphere. And so that, and of course, the American people, all human beings love, this is like real reality TV, is when grown-up people who care about their families and their country and their fellow human beings clash in serious fashion about what do we do about our problems. That's really supposed to be the epicenter of what real politics are supposed to be about. And I think there's still a really deep desire, and that's how you can get like these toxic fake mimics of things like debates or presidential candidates or politics and all of that, is that people desire the real thing so much that they're willing to ingest the Monsanto, toxic mimic pill in the midst of all of that. And then finally, I think that what you pointed out there, John, about the cover of Drudge and the clown, and we all picked up on now, this was obviously what this was. This was the circus. And that is the deeper part of the psychological warfare that is our politics that was heightened in 2016. And, sure, you could call it active measures, but I don't mean just Russian active measures, although that's part of it. And I don't even also mean, other foreign measures, including mainly like Middle East, Israel, and not even just domestic, active measures, but the totality of active measures, which are designed not only to divide and conquer, but to also to discredit, to make you feel hopeless, basically, to make it seem like everything is going to crap and chaos. And that's, of course, obviously, like that's the main thing that Trump actually likes to do. But of course, Biden does it too, around pointing at Trump as the chaos king and about how everything is going to chaos. And Trump then points to Antifa and the burning cities. And it's all just a caricature of what is actually going on. Yes, we have very serious problems. Yes, there is a lot burning, both physically and metaphorically. But at the same time, I think that's what this larger dynamic of the active measures is about, discrediting our public sphere, really. It's actually draining the swamp into the public sphere so that it's so stinky that no one wants to get involved. And so that's why we do have to try to drain the public sphere swamp so we can clear it out, so we can actually sort of have a credible politics that's not so stinky.
And I think a major part of that, I'll say this real quick, a major part of that is conditioning the public, the general public, to look at the people who disagree with them politically as the literal enemy. I mean, right now I'd say, and it's not the case everywhere, but I'd say right now, maybe at an unprecedented level in our society, people look at the other side, the people who disagree with them politically, as like their literal enemy. And, you know, it's very, very difficult to have any type of healthy political system or system in general when, you know, probably a close to majority of the society has that mindset, at least politically attuned people who are into politics, you know, particularly partisan politics, look at like the people who disagree with them as their literal enemies. And that's a major part of this act of dividing and conquering, of this, you know, of this, what you're calling this operation to basically delegitimize these, is to condition the public to look at the other side, whoever doesn't agree with them, as their, not just a political, you know, opponent, but as a literal enemy. And it's a terrible thing to see play out.
Right. It's weaponizing opinions, weaponizing emotions, weaponizing sides is what you described there. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they've been trying to do all this time. And Trump delivered it to them in their hands more than anybody else. And that's probably why they threw Biden up there, because literally he's a piece of driftwood at this point. Like, he's just up there. Like, why is he there, right? Nobody even understands why they put him up there. It's just a complete and total disaster. But ideas have been weaponized at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And one last thing up here, I put revolver.news, which is the new Drudge Report. And I can't find any information of who owns Revolver, who's on their board, anybody involved with it. I can't find none. And I looked. Maybe something will show up in the next. It's been about a week or two since I've looked, but I couldn't find anything. Now, of course, you know, with Revolver, they're just posting tweets of, you know, your average CMP people. So you have Ali Alexander here, and Chris Wallace killed democracy with Chris Wallace crying blood, and Cernovich. Oh boy, and dude, Dave Rubin. Oh boy, Dave Rubin. So.
Oh Lord, I mean, this idea that Chris Wallace is like the master deep state manipulator against Trump, it's such a joke. I mean, as Jeremy pointed out, you know, and others point out, Chris Wallace was facilitating it to work to Trump's advantages. And like, people can't see that, though. I mean, it's very, very, it's very clever. I mean,
Wallace totally cornered Biden at a couple of points there for Trump nicely.
But these people, oh my God!
But on the flip side of the coin, it's still going to play to Trump's base. Like, he's against us. They're all against us.
And if you bring up Trump and Mike Wallace hanging out on Robert Maxwell's yacht, well, clearly it doesn't mean anything. It's fake news. Listening to CNN.
What if I didn't like anybody at the debate? Am I allowed
You're not
to say
allowed
that?
to have that opinion. You have to take sides.
Shirts or skins, John.
You have to make sure all your friends are either Republicans or Democrats. You know,
Here we go from the Daily Caller, CMP Daily Caller. Hunter got thrown out of the military, dishonorably discharged by Trump. That's not true. He was not. He didn't have a job until he became vice president.
Biden won't even touch the stupid sons, much less Jared Kushner.
Oh, Chris Kobach. Oh, Chris Kobach weighs in, but not on voting on climate change and fires, though, no less.
Oh my gosh, man.
Whatever you do, don't vote for anybody who hasn't written off $100,000 a year for their hair.
Oh God, I saw this coming today because I digest way more conservative media than I need to, because I heard it in the car while I'm working, and I knew what this was going to become when I heard a caller on Rush Limbaugh's show claim that Chris Wallace is going to lead a deep state attack on Trump tonight. So I saw this coming. I mean, it's just a joke. Yeah. And it's like
interesting. So we do have, of course, Biden talking about Burisma, but he didn't talk about Skokovo. It's a limited hangout debate.
You know, like Trump. What's so crazy is that Trump goes for certain jugulars, and Biden won't even begin to really go after Trump in like the areas where it really matters. I mean, it's crazy how that works. I mean,
yeah, like I keep saying, they're not serious. They wouldn't have given you Biden, man. I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like
I don't know. I don't find it at all surprising they would fall on his sword. I mean, I've been blogging now for almost 10 years. I've been warning about the rise of the far right for like almost 8 or something like this. Nothing that's happening now surprises me.
They go back. They constantly go back to, oh, Trump's a racist, Trump's a sexist, Trump this, and this with all this stuff. And meanwhile, they'll throw out like Russia or whatever, but they won't give any actual meaning or what they won't actually put together what it means. Meanwhile, Clinton had the very real scandals were presented much more than any of Trump's real scandals are. And with Biden, they keep going back to the stuff that actually really does damn Biden, but it's always the attacks, like, the bigot, the racist, it fits right into Trump's base and the galvanizes his base. While you throw out the scandals, you constantly have this illusion of like serious investigation. Meanwhile, there's no actual serious ground being covered.
No one's getting arrested. No sealed indictments. Oh, wait. Paul Manafort got arrested. Roger Stone got arrested.
Oh, yeah. Even Steve Bannon eventually got arrested.
Yes, they did. But then again, it's my theory that was because John Kenneth Blackwell had to show his Plexus power.
Maybe.
Yeah, he did. Bannon didn't get arrested for whatever happened in that hot tub.
No.
Oh, no.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody who joined us on the roundtable. I had a great time. We definitely need to do this again.
So what are you guys doing for the election?
Not voting. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, boy.
And probably the rest of you guys are too, but I want to thank...
I might hold my nose and vote for Biden here in Kansas, just for issues and giggles. See, though.
I'll write in the ticket of maybe Pat Tillman and somebody else. I don't know.
There you go.
Because I can't consciously put down.
How about Pat Tillman and JFK Jr.? You could get the QAnon vote.
I'm gonna write in Danny Casolaro and Michael Hastings.
There you go. There you go.
Good ticket. That's a good ticket. Oh, I was thinking William Cooper and
I was gonna say, why don't we I was gonna put in Prince from the Abyss, actually.
Oh my gosh.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody who joined us. Billy Ray Valentine from the Infinite Fringe, Jeremy Rothe Kushel and Greg McCarron from the Antidote, Recluse from Vise Up View and the Farm, and Mark from Houstonic Live YouTube channel. For all of us, take care, everyone. God bless, and try to, if the best you can, try to reach out to your neighbor, your family member. They're on the other side of the aisle, and try your best to do some reconciliation, because we're gonna need some after the election. Good night, everybody. God bless.
Man.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John. Peace, y'all.